Yes, indeed, the cure for insomnia, it's called the NFL. Yesterday, kicking off the day with an absolutely boring game between the Giants and the Rams in London, and ending the day with an even more boring game in Phoenix between the Seahawks and the Cardinals. A comedy of errors between field goal kickers that couldn't hit the broadside of the barn, let alone a three-pointer to win a game for their respective teams. And the league wants to know why the ratings are down. Listen, guys, it's because of the quality of the product on the field. It's the lousy matchups you're feeding us on national television. The quality simply isn't there as opposed to previous years. It's parity. It's because teams can't build dynasties anymore, which we've known for the past 15 years because of free agency and salary caps. It's just the way of the league. It's the way football has gone in the pros over the years. Listen, the best team in the league, the New England Patriots right now, right? My 15-dime best bet was on New England yesterday. I am very happy to have walked away with yet another 15-dime best bet winner, my third in 3 days this weekend, okay? But the Patriots played a lousy game at Pittsburgh. They are damn fortunate Landry Jones was quarterbacking and not Ben Roethlisberger. Maybe that had something to do with the way they played such a lackadaisical game yesterday. But they played awful. Okay, I'll give them a break. Maybe they played mediocre at best. They got the win. They got the cover. They escaped. They're 7-1 on the season. But they played a miserable game. And that's the best you had to offer yesterday on the Sunday card. Well, thankfully, tonight we have a good matchup with a lot of interesting subplots, better than any soap opera you'll find currently airing on TV. We've got Brock Osweiler getting a hero's welcome tonight when he returns to Denver. Yes, that is sarcasm you see dripping from the corner of my mouth right now. Osweiler leading his Houston Texans into Denver tonight. We're going to talk about that game. I've got a free pick coming up on it in just a moment. Listen, I want to go back and take a look at one game yesterday. New Orleans and Kansas City. How many times have I told you? 99% of the time, guys, you bet the underdogs late, you bet the favorites early. And it came into play again last night or yesterday because Brad Wilton here at the site had his latest 150 dime raised to bar winner number 4 out of 5 in the NFL this season when he released the New Orleans Saints. Now, he released that play early at 10 o'clock Eastern time on Saturday night. Now, I can tell you, as the operator of these sites, nobody got it on Saturday night. Practically nobody. Because the way it works here at the site is that about 85 to 9% of the people that come to the sites, they make their purchases between 9 o'clock Eastern time and about 11:30 Eastern time on Sunday morning. And then they go shopping. And no, they are not going to Macy's with their wives, guys. At 11:30 on, they are basically going and shopping at their sports books. So they are done. Then they sit back, they kick back, they relax, they watch the pregame shows, and they're ready for action. That's it. That's how it's been for the last 10, 12 years because of online gambling and online sports books. So when Brad released the play, the Saints were a 6-point underdog. Now, if he was on Kansas City, you had to get down on Kansas City right then. But he was on New Orleans. Why would you bet New Orleans overnight? It just didn't make sense. Absolutely. And in a game like that, you had to wait and you had to wait because you would have paid. And you would have paid for a winner. Because that line moved to 6.5 points by early Sunday morning and you would have walked away with the winner. And that's how it goes. Now, I made Brad take a push on it. But I think most people probably walked away with a winner because that game was a solid 6.5 points. My God, by, I'm looking at the price of that one. I think by, 7 o'clock in the morning Eastern time on Sunday, it pretty much stayed 6.5 at just about every single sports book up until about 20 minutes before kickoff. And who the hell is betting an underdog right before kickoff? That would be absolutely foolish. So again, if you're going to do this thing we call gambling that we love so much, you got to be smart. It's just like I say also, you got to always make sure that you have two sources to play. If you were playing and had an account at one of those big offshore sports books, and you know the ones I'm talking about, the ones that advertise all the time, the big guys where you always are paying an extra half point, sometimes even a point more for those favorites, well, it was advantageous for you to have an account at one of those books because you didn't have to wait. Because rest assured, you were going to get that extra half point whenever you bet New Orleans yesterday. It's just the way it goes with those books. When you're an underdog, they're a great place to play. So let's talk about this game here tonight. The line in this one is interesting because here's a case in point that if you were on the Houston Texans, if you wanted to bet the Texans, the time to do so in this game, however, was early Yes, early, because this is the exception to every rule that also comes into play. Because early this morning, late yesterday, Houston was 8.5 to 9. This game is down to 7.5 by 2 o'clock Eastern time today. So again, it's an exception to every rule. I said 99% of the time, but you have to look at every game as its own little entity. The total in this game, let me just make sure I've got the absolute latest number on this one. Yeah, 40.5. Although I got to be honest with you, actually, let's call this 40. This one has definitely been pushed down to 40 because listen, everybody and their brother is going to bet the under in this game. And why the hell not? Denver comes in here with the number 3 overall defense in the league, the number 1 pass defense in the league. Houston can play a little pass defense as well. You got two teams that love to get pressure on the quarterback. And even though the Texans lost J.J. Watt, with Clowney, they still get a lot of pressure and bring the heat on opposing quarterbacks. You got two teams that realize they've got to be able to run the ball because their quarterbacks are playing behind leaky offensive lines. So C.J. Anderson has been missing in action for weeks, but the Broncos came into the season after their success late last year at being a ground and pound team wanting to establish the run. They've got to get back to running the ball in order to make Trevor Siemian all the more effective. Meanwhile, the Texans, you saw how much better a team they are when Lamar Miller gets actively involved in the offense as he was last week at home against Indianapolis. They can't have him running the ball like he did only 8 times against Minnesota in that road blowout loss a couple of weeks back. Both teams have to establish the run. I think to do so, of course, that means time is going to wind off the clock. You have two strong defenses. You have two quarterbacks that have not exactly excelled this season. Yeah, Simeon's had some big games, but when you look at the criticism that Brock Osweiler has endured, you look at his passer rating, you look at Simeon's passer rating, there's not a hell of a lot of difference. And then ultimately it comes down to defense. One of the free picks I gave you yesterday was the Chargers and the Falcons to go over the total. And I said to you, did that look like it was going to be a 17-14 game? Well, what did it end up being? 33-30? Does this look like it's going to be a 33-30 game to you? This could be the 17-14 game. This could be the 20-13 game. I just think that in this particular spot, you got to play the under. It's the only logical play to be made. So I would go with the under in this contest. Now, little FYI for you. Right now on the site, I've got the rear view mirror edition to look back at this weekend's college football action. I will do an NFL version of that show later today and post it if you want to be alerted as to when that video will be up. Just scroll down the page a bit. Why don't you hop over to my YouTube channel and subscribe? And when the show goes live, you'll get a little notification via Google, via YouTube. Keep in mind that little thing called the NBA tips off tomorrow. I will tell you what I tell you at the beginning of every single season. The start of the season is the only time that we have the advantage over the odds makers, especially true in basketball. They have absolutely no clue, no more knowledge of what's going to go on at the beginning weeks of the season than you or I. Well, maybe you. Me, I've been following preseason basketball like crazy. I've been looking at the rosters, looking at the lineups, looking at the matchups and the lineups that the coaches have been putting out. And at the beginning of the season, the lines are always soft. You'll find the mistakes, and that's when you pounce. There's money to be made, and I hope you're along to make it here with myself and the handicappers at the site. I wish you well, guys. I'll talk to you again tomorrow when we do this one more time.